What's up, fam? I know it's been a while since I made a video. I've been busy. Um, I have a job. I do things. You know what I'm saying? But I'm back. Third Eye Cinema. Hope your third eye is open. I'm about to. So this is what happened. So after I released that last video on, is our Sayains Black Third Eye Cinema, the very first breakdown that y'all been waiting for, I got a lot of scrutiny. And I got a lot of love. Got both. Right? First, I got a lot of love. They were like, yeah, man, nobody ever broke this down like you. That's popping. Thank you. That was amazing. Then I got the other, what's up, bro? Then I got the other type of comments like, nobody, I'm confused. Do you really think Saiyans are black? Those type of comments. So, I got people who are angry and frustrated because, some black people cannot accept being equated with something positive. So, some people were very, very upset. And I'm here to answer everyone's questions and read some of these comments. Comments were on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. So I'm going to try to answer them the best as I can. We're gonna start from some of the most controversial ones, right? Some of the angry ones. All right. So we had we had somebody ask, but why base a race of Saiyans off African history and not cast a single African black Saiyan? So I knew this question was coming, and it's a good question. All right. A lot of people ask these type of questions, and they come in often. One, you have to remember that the Third Eye Cinema is not just about black people. I say black to include a lot of other people who are debated to be black or not, but it also had to do with indigenous people. And I say that in my breakdown. But to answer your question of why base a race of Saiyans off African history and not cast a single African black Saiyan, for the same reason in X-Men, they have Professor X and Magneto, right? They're both white males, but Magneto represents Malcolm X, and Professor X represents Martin Luther King. That's not speculation. The authors came out and said this and verified that information. So the reason why they do that is because to make them black is a little too hardcore. And what I mean by that is, you gotta remember what time this stuff was coming out. This stuff was coming out in the 70s and the 80s. Dragon Ball Z was coming out in the 80s. You understand? And where racism was still very prevalent. Just it is today, but more so at that time. And people weren't really going to accept a show or a comic about how great black people are, or how super powerful black people are. So they had to do it in different ways. It's a fact. It's just a part of comic book history, manga history. When they used to base things off of black people, they couldn't just outright say that. One, in fear to be a Negro lover, but two, in fear to be called racist over something they might see, cool about black people. Someone else might find a bit racist. So, someone else said, and it's funny how half of the people support this claim 3ye was racist and made Popo in blackface when it's from a demon from Chinese folklore. And no, 3ye has explicitly said what his story is based on. So, that she was commenting first off of what I said, then off of somebody defending me. So I'm going to try to answer this the best way I can. I don't know where all her things are coming from. But I know the 3ye thing. I said 3ye was racist. Now, I'm going to tell you something. To be honest with you, this is my personal perspective. I think that if you are born in between the 19th century when racism was created and now, you're probably racist. And what I mean by that is you probably have bias of race. Some black people hate black people. Some white people hate black people. Some white people hate white people based off them being white, based off them being black. And what I mean by racist is, if 3ye is subconsciously racist, because that's what I'm talking about. So, for example, you might not even know that you have a bias to another group of people but you do subconsciously. And my claim was that Akira Toriyama was subconsciously racist. I don't understand why that's so hard to believe, especially in the 80s. That somebody could have it embedded in their psyche from growing up in the sociology of the environment that they may be racist. Now, Akira may not be racist, but if the theory about Akira Toriyama basing sayings off of black people is true, well, one, it does mean that he has a positive view of black people, but it also means he has a racist, stereotypical view of black people that people wouldn't deem necessarily positive. So that's what I personally mean by that. So this one brother, I don't think he was a bad person. He seemed like he couldn't make up his mind, but he tried to be as critical as possible. He said, I listened to half of it. I don't like the idea of shooting down the brother's work, but all of his points are reaching too far. He makes overreaching correlations, but passes them off as proof. All right, so let me answer each one that he gives, okay? Though he skips a lot of my arguments, I'm gonna give him his fair shake. Saiyans are named after vegetables. Africa is known as a land of vegetations. Therefore, a planet Vegeta represents Africa. So he says that's a far reach. Okay. So, yes, Saiyans are, as we know, based off of vegetables. That's where they get their names. But what I was saying was that black people have been attributed to trees in art, have been attributed to cabbage. You can just go look it up. That our hair to a lot of other cultures seem like it's sprouting up like trees, like vegetation. And you notice that the Saiyan's hair is sprouting up like trees, like vegetations. And he decides to also base them on vegetables. Why? I must ask that question of why. There's only one place in the world that we know specifically for is vegetation, as far as continents are concerned. For having a lot of trees and having a lot of tropical, there's other places, but I'm saying you think of Africa. A lot of people think of Africa when we think of vegetation. So I was making a correlation. Now, that wasn't my argument saying that therefore Saiyans are definitely based on black people. My argument was a completely different argument, which I'm going to get to. But that was not the argument by itself. That was a correlation that I found that I was showing you as further evidence. There's a difference between evidence and an argument, and I can use evidence in my argument. So the argument is a bigger thing, which he did not cover. But but that was a part of my evidence. That was that was a support for my claim, which was that Saiyans may be based off of black people. Moving on. Goku has a tail and turns into an ape. If Toriyama had racist view of black people as apes, this is proof Goku is an African. It's not what I said. Okay, I said that the media constantly uses, and this is a fact, the media constantly uses apes and monkeys. That's racist, but they constantly use apes to represent black people. The most famous version of this is King Kong. When King Kong is climbing up the building, it represents how black are trying to get up in corporate America, right? And when and the higher they get, because mind you, King Kong was taken from a tropical island where he was worshipped as a god. He was taken on a ship. He was chained down on his ship, and he was taken to the Americas to show them what this beast is and how he is. And King Kong breaks out. He grabs the white woman, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, and he crawls up the top of the tower and has her. He thinks he's protecting her. He wants the white woman, and then they come and shoot him down. What that represents, obviously, is black people going from Africa onto slave ships to the Americas, being paraded and showed as some type of specimen, which we were at first before we were enslaved, as some type of specimen, some type of wild, majestic creature. And when we broke out, quote unquote, when slavery was abolished, white men, this is their inferiority complex, they were afraid that we were going to go for their women like they went for ours. Okay, and a lot of black men did go for white women. Let's just keep it 100. All right, and they were saying that the black man can try to get as high as he want in America on the top of the corporate buildings. But if he tries to take that white woman, he will die. He will be shot down. That was the message of the film. Look at the analysis. I'm not the only one who concluded that. That's not something that is hidden. Gorillas normally in media are representative of black people, and it was racist. Now, with that being said, we must also correlate that I say that might be subconscious of Akira to do that. But at the same time, it is not a stretch, brother, that to recognize him randomly using apes. Randomly, like why use giant apes in Dragon Ball Z? Why are all these correlations coming together? All I did was make a correlation between King Kong and the great ape, which is the same thing, by the way, brother. So I don't personally think that's a stretch. I think that media does this often. I was saying that Akira will be a part of that media that does this repeatedly, uses gorillas and great apes to represent black people. You know, just more evidence to the theory. He says, he talked about the Freezers, a colonizer and enslaver, and his race represents the cold. He is European oppressor, and Europe is a cold continent. My argument was not that simple. He tries to oversimplify my arguments. I'm not going to re-say it because it's in the last video. But if you watch the last video, you know that it wasn't that simple. And by the way, it's weird that people try to act like Akira Toriyama didn't constantly put political message in his show. He talks about the Nazis. He talks about Russia. He talks about communism. He includes all these things. So you're telling me that he includes all these political messages except for race? That he brings up all these controversial political messages throughout Dragon Ball all the way to Dragon Ball Z, but except race. Except race. I personally find that hard to believe. I think it's more of a stretch to say he speaks about everything political except for race, to me. And I think it's an even further stretch to think that he talks about everybody in race except for black people. Personally, you can literally make these arguments for any historically oppressed group of people. The reason black people may like Dragon Ball Z is much because one gets lost in how relatable it is. But brother, if it's that relatable for black people, there may be a reason. One, if it's that relatable to the oppressed, there may be a reason. I've been said in my video, if you go back, that I wasn't just talking about African Americans. I'm talking about oppressed people, period. But I'm saying the focal point, the primary focus of the video is black people, is African people. That's what I was saying. But moving on. Next. Stop trying to Afrocentrify the entire goddamn universe. I don't really know what to say about that. I didn't know it's Afro. It's funny because when other cultures find out, like for example, when they made the connection between Superman and Jewish people, right? Nobody gets upset. But when you make the correlation between Superman and black people, stop trying to Afrocentrify the universe. It's weird, man. It's very strange behavior by people. And it's funny how people only get upset when you correlate these the symbolism racially to black people. That's it. Nobody gets upset when you correlate it to other racial groups. So I find that very interesting. I find it more interesting that black people get more upset than any other group of people. Let me say unconscious black people, uninformed, unintellectually sound black people get very upset. We make correlations between, heroes or art and black people, A queen says, LMAO, they are aliens. Stop trying to force race into everything because you need validation. Dragon Ball Z is confirmed by Toriyama himself to be based off the Chinese folklore journey to the West. Keep your headcanons and fan theories on Tumblr and DeviantArt. I don't even know what the second one is, and I don't have a Tumblr. I think I used to. Beside the point. One, I said in my analysis that Dragon Ball Z is fundamentally based off of Journey to the West, and I use that in my analogy to correlate to Goku's journey to the West and to correlate to our personal journey to the West. So I never said that wasn't the case. I never said that wasn't true. I really feel like some people don't really watch these things. They read the title and then they comment. So by the way, these are all Facebook comments. I don't delete comments on my videos, especially intelligent comments. whether they're agreeable or disagreeable. A lot of y'all need to learn to read between the lines. Just because Akira Toriyama didn't say it officially doesn't mean it's not true. Like, the comparisons are there. I just sitting here trying to figure out, why are y'all looking for Akira to spell it out for y'all? I mean, goddamn. Just because the government doesn't say so specifically that you have, doesn't say too specifically that, I'm sorry, you wrote this a little wrong, that you have to get a job doesn't mean you don't have to get one. So that brother was pretty much saying read between the lines. I agree with that brother. Okay, bro, this is not legit. Don't understand the obsession with wanting the Saiyans to be black. If it's some sort of fantasy that some black American nerds have, why is it that you want to associate with a fictional character that can transform into a prime ape-like creature? I think that seem offensive for black Americans. Unless the original creator, Akira Toriyama, declares this to be legit, I doubt it. Please, can we stop assuming things that are not true? Just satisfy one's personal opinion, theory, etc. So again, I don't think he really watched the video, because I said continuously that it would be offensive to black people. But just because something is I'm not looking to Dragon Ball Z for the Saiyans to be black because I want them to. I think it's cool after I did my analysis and I really broke it down. I did my research, but I don't care. It's like me caring that it's like me trying to make what's a really good character that I like a lot. It's like me trying to make Winter Soldier black, or it's like me trying to make I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of like black cartoons, so it's hard for me to find cartoons. Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, I guess, Powder Puff Girls. I'm not here to make every cartoon I like black or Samurai Jack. I break down videos and stuff, period. So not all my stuff is gonna be about black people, but when it is about black people, why is everybody so upset? That's the funny thing. Even if it's wrong, why are people so angry? You know, when you correlate things with black people, you see a certain amount of hostility come out of people. You know, it's like everybody can masquerade a white Jesus, but as soon as you show a black Jesus, people turn into flames. You know, I said this for years. It's obviously based off of Journey to the West, but so much of things Saiyans do are clear based off of black people. That gravity defying hair, though. Well, thank you, brother. I agree with you. This is just fan theory, but that's as far as it goes unless you have evidence from the director, creators, or developers of Akira Toriyama. And the only thing this video proved was that the Master Roshi's character design was influenced by Hawaiian culture. I don't know what to do for people sometimes. Hawaiians are indigenous people, and most of Hawaii. Well, first of all, the Hawaiians only got to Hawaii, I think, about 10,000 years ago. But prior to that, they were pure Africans, and obviously they readapted to the land. Also, the blacks, the African people were brought over to the Americas, and prior to that, the Moors were traveling there. But if you knew your history, you would know these things, but you don't know your history, so you say this crazy stuff, and you think that there's no correlation between Hawaiians and black people. And just because Hawaiian people tell me this, Hawaiians don't want to be considered African or black, I don't care. There's black people around this corner right now. Black as me, who don't want to be considered African. That's just a part of, self-hatred, self-enslavement, mental bondage. I don't care. History is history. You can not want to be African all you want, and you still African. Unless Akira Toriyama himself comes out and says anything about this being related to his inspiration for Saiyans, then any of there's a BS. So it's weird that people they can't. It's funny that people don't have a third eye and they can't perceive things without somebody coming out and telling it to them. Like, someone always has to come out and tell certain people things. These are called sheeple, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but if you cannot come to an educated perspective or a theory yourself without someone telling you, then you're not an intellectual, and that's fine. But when you're speaking to an intellectual, have some respect, because he or she's doing something that you are unable to do. A cool random connection. I personally dislike these things, though. Soon the color red would have been inspired by black folks, and that's just people who get upset that mostly everything is inspired by black people. I I didn't do this. I didn't make the world this way. As black people are the first people on the planet, so of course most things come from them. How you want to get mad at black people because most things are inspired by black people? I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what you want me to do about that. Black people were the original people of the planet. So of course many things come out of black culture. Of course many things come out of the black civilization. Of course a lot of things come out of Africa. I can't help that. It's just the way it is. Let's see more stuff. Dragon Ball was inspired by Journey to the West, but Dragon Ball Z was on some subliminal shit. Sorry to cut y'all. We love Dragon Ball Z. We, as a people, I personally believe is made to subliminally program people, but it seems to appeal to us a lot. The Great Ape, Cell, ID, Ego, Super Saiyan, that ish, all has deep subliminalism and meaning that I can't explain, but it is effing there. He was pretty much supporting the claim that the Saiyans may be black, and there's a lot of subliminalism in Dragon Ball Z, and there is. Saiyans don't just represent black people. Akira Toriyama changes things up as he goes along, but I was just speaking on the half of focusing on black people, and I said that in my video. But people don't really watch stuff. They just watch the first 5 minutes and they go, keyboard warriors. He's snapping. What's funny thing is I asked most of these people, this is why it took so long. I kept asking people to have, who disagree, to have an online discussion, on here live for all of the viewers. But it's funny, they all refused. Strangely enough, they all were like, I don't know, I'm cool. I'm like, all right. I feel like if you really believe in your position, you should be able to defend it. Not one person out of all these, mind you, it was over 300 comments. Not one person wanted to take me up on that challenge to have a full discussion on why they disagree with what I'm saying. Yeah, Akira used subliminalism, but please remember that Asian culture is much different than ours. Akira Toriyama used many different places and races to populate the Dragon Ball universe. Goku and the Saiyans had an ever-evolving background to keep up with the show's popularity. Simply put, he did not create them in our image. We need to stop giving ourselves credit for things that just don't tie into us. And that's fair if he believes that. I have no problem with that perspective, if that's what he believes. Super Saiyans are symbolic to gold in the Buddhism, the age of enlightenment, nirvana. That's also true. But remember this, just because something symbolizes one thing doesn't mean it doesn't also symbolize something else. For example, if you talk about subliminalism in the Bible, in Genesis, right? You have the Garden of Eden, right? Now you have the fruit, or for example, you have a painting. Let's start with there. You have a painting of Adam and Eve, and they show you an apple. Now, in Genesis, it never said there was an apple. It said it was a fruit. So the apple is subliminalism for fruit. Now, the fruit is also subliminalism for being fruitful, having sex. But it's also subliminalism for knowing good and evil, since some people believe once you have sex, you're no longer innocent because you know the difference between something good, something bad. When you're innocent, you do not know bad yet. So that's 3 layers of subliminalism in one object. So you can have subliminalism in different ways. Just because it stands for one thing here doesn't mean it doesn't stand for another thing here. You got to understand that. You know what I'm saying? But see, you guys playing checkers. I'm over here playing chess. You know what I'm saying? It takes a real open mind to really break things down the way they are. So a lot of y'all think because you have one answer that one answer is that only one answer. And that comes from monotheism. A lot of y'all can't have multiple answers because you can only have one God to concentrate at one time. See, but if you don't understand that things work in the multiverse, just like we thought that we only had one universe, we found out we have multi-universes. So you're only looking at one conclusion because you're only looking at things from 2 dimensionals, either this or that. But we live in the 3rd dimension, which means there's 2 options. And we live in the 4th dimension, that means there's 3 options. You don't really understand the science about that. I don't want to really go over your heads, but you know what I'm saying? That's just me telling you why you got to be more open to things having more than one answer. I watched the whole full video, and all I got to say is he's on point. He's spitting knowledge. I had about Dragon Ball 15 years ago. I'm gonna have this brother on the show. I'm just let y'all know he was actually a very intelligent brother. I was thinking he could share even more information to y'all. Might have truth to it. He stole, was inspired by Superman's story. Who knows what else inspired, quote unquote, his work. Another brother, agreeing, Akira Toriyama did steal a lot of things from Superman. Dragon Ball Z fans hate that, I know, because I don't personally like Superman as a character, but Akira definitely stole elements from Superman's story, therefore stealing subliminalism from Superman carried over into Dragon Ball Z. And we talked about that just a little bit in the last video. I think that's it, people. At least they had characters of color. Saiyans are just one color, and that was it. I'm pretty sure this was based on some other history of enslavement. So the one person saying it could be any slaves, it just can't be black people. Isn't that weird? It could be anybody, just not black people. It could be any oppressed group, any oppressor, just not black people. That's a black person saying that. It's weird how we work so hard to keep things from being associated with us. You know, I find that very interesting. But that's just about it. I think I had a brother on the YouTube channel who asked me a question. Let me try to find him before I get off with you guys. Please share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's a nice day out here. That's why I really did this stuff, guys. It's really nice outside. Let's see. One of these comments. Can you talk about the other versions of Super Saiyan and Fusion? Okay, last question I'm answering. All right, so Super Saiyan. Now I already told y'all Super Saiyan represents a lot of things. Another way to interpret it is the enlightenment. But with enlightenment and consciousness for black people comes realizing your full potential and becoming the golden people who we always been from ancient Kemet. Now you have different levels of Super Saiyan. You find out that this Super Saiyan is not going to be good enough. You got to go to this level of Super Saiyan, this level of Super Saiyan. I don't think Akira was thinking about black people when he made Super Saiyan 2. Nor do I think Akira was thinking about black people when he made Super Saiyan 3. I still think it was included in the storylines, though. Now, but there are different levels of ascension and enlightenment. So Super Saiyan 2 and 3 just represent different levels of enlightenment in different stages to rising up to the occasion for whatever you're going through. Now, as far as fusion is important. Goku represents the black person who is who forgot who he was, who realized who he is, and he's proud to be a Saiyan, but he's not really deep in that. He don't go around like saying this, saying that, and saying this, my planet and my people. He's not really the type. So he's proud, but he's not deep into that. That's not him. He was a person who grew up as an Earthling, so he never felt like he needed to fully embrace it. Vegeta's different. Vegeta was on the motherland. He experienced it. He grew up there. You know, he grew up as a Saiyan, knowing that he's a Saiyan. He always had his people in mind, and he has royalty. So he represents that revolution, that radical. Radix, I know, but Radix is the radish, but I'm just saying radical as in Vegeta. So them two fusion represents what we need to do in our community. You have two opposing sides, whether you agree with the black people thing or not. And this fusion, what it represented was two different sides, two different mindsets, perspectives, two different cultures come together one and form something stronger. So black people from both sides, right? Black people who are, you know, those revolutionaries, hardcore, you know what I'm saying, just ready to go. And those black people who are like more like, hey man, let's think over peace and love and harmony and economy and business and blah blah blah. They need to come together, and if they came together, they would create something stronger, something better. I never got into the Buu saga because I think that he's not necessarily just talking about black people when you get to the Buu saga. I think they begin to represent different things, but like I said, the fusion represents that. Now, as far as the Super Saiyan, 4, not getting to that. I don't think that has anything to do with black people. I don't think GT had anything to do with black people. Dragon Ball Super, I'm just getting into it. The only thing I could tell you about Dragon Ball Super is less about the transformation and more about the gods. Now, Goku turned into Super Saiyan God form. If you take this back and you buy into the theory that the Saiyans represent black people, right? Goku cannot achieve being a god on his own. Now, if you understand the black community, the black conscious community is about not just enlightenment, but becoming God and being God. A lot of black people go around and greet each other, what's up, God? What's good, God? What's good, God? How you doing, God? What's good, God? You know what I'm saying? So everything's about becoming God, being that God power and only depending on yourself for salvation. Now, the same thing goes in Dragon Ball Super. But in order for Goku to become a God, he must unite with everyone and use everyone's power. So it's a little different than fusion, right? He must unite with the youth. He must unite with somebody who used to be his enemy. He must unite with the generation who has even yet to come into the world to become a God and to ascend to the next level. Beerus is the one who gives him this enlightenment and wakes him up. What is Beerus wearing? Beerus is wearing Egyptian clothing. And Beerus, even though he's seen as a cat on there, he represents Anubis. If you go look at pictures of Anubis and go look at pictures of Beerus, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And Beerus is supposed to represent those black people. That's why he's like that real dark purple of ancient Kemet. Way back, we used to also be called the cat people. If you don't believe me, go look it up. Africans were also called cat people. That's why you see that in Avatar. But like I said, that's a whole nother movie to break down and analyze it. He comes over and he gives Goku that information needed to ascend to his next level of godhood. And as y'all know, later on, he trains him, and they start teaching them how to be gods. Both Goku and Vegeta, and actually say that Vegeta has a better, more potential in God mode because of his mindset, his royalty, and that's that revolutionary, that's that African bloodline size. It's deep, yo. But unfortunately, this is gonna be the last video in a while. I might do one more video with a few people who agree and disagree with me on this call together. Other than that, pretty much done, guys. I'm going to be moving on. Please let me know what movies you want me to do next. I might do Hancock next. I might do, I don't know, Avatar. It's a lot of options. I'm doing a movie next, though, because it is called 3ye Cin3ma. So peace and blessings. I might do Blade. I don't know. I'm thinking. Peace, love, blessings to all of y'all. I am out. 3ye Cin3ma. Keep your third eye open.